Hello, and welcome to season 2 of Sober on the Mic. Today we have Shell from We Recover Loudly, and I'm really, really, really excited about this episode. So, as always, my name is Lauren, and we're going to get cracking with the 20 quickfire questions. Shell, are you happy with that?
Yeah, I mean, I don't think I've ever done anything quick fire in my life, so let's see.
Let's see how that goes. Right, number one, how old are you?
That is very rude. I go, I tell everyone I'm 28, so I'll stick to that, but I'm not really.
Yeah, I stick to it. I'm 29 forever. Yeah,
Forever.
yeah,
I stopped counting.
yeah. Where are you from?
I was born in Cape Town, but I grew
Okay.
up mostly in a town called Worcester in the Midlands. But I lived and worked in London from the age of 20. I'm about to give away my age, for about 17, 18 years,
Yeah,
if you can do the maths on that.
same age as me.
But currently I now live in Bournemouth. So yeah, but
Oh, that's a
originally from
lovely
Cape
part
Town.
of the world. Lovely part of the world, Bournemouth.
Oh
Um,
yes.
and originally from Cape Town. That is cool. What's your star sign?
Aries, the
Aries.
best one.
It's a very good one, Aries, and I've never met an Aries I don't like. What daily habit do you do to keep yourself grounded?
Um, I my phone goes off at 9 o'clock every night. It goes into
Oh,
do not disturb, and that's massive for me. And I actually look forward to that time of
yeah.
day. And a recent one on the same vein is I've got something called Zencast, Zen something or other, can't remember, but it blocks Instagram from 9 o'clock till 3 o'clock every day as well. And if I want to use it, I have to type in the reason why.
Yeah.
And again, that's just really helped me weirdly just not have anxiety around it because
Yeah.
I can't use it.
Yeah.
So
It's
yeah,
taken out your hands. Oh, that's a good one.
taking it
I
out.
might
So
look
yeah,
into that.
boundaries around kind of my phone and like social media is definitely a daily thing that
Yeah.
I'm really grateful I have in
Yeah,
place.
that's great because it's as much as social media can be a good place, it can also
Yeah.
be a really horrible place sometimes, can't it?
Oh yeah, but then I'm like a fucking addict when 3 o'clock, 3:01, I'm like
Yeah.
heading into Instagram like,
Sorry. Yeah,
but
definitely.
I'm allowed to say that.
Yes. Do you have a quote or a mantra that you live by?
um Something my uncle once said to me is revenge, the best revenge is a successful life.
Oh,
And well, that's probably not very
it's not. Oh no, I like that.
it's
I like
not
that a
necessarily
lot.
very positive or very Instagrammable. I love that because I have definitely had many challenges, as we all do through life, and you could spend a lot of time wasted wishing ill on those people that have done you
Yeah,
harm. And
yeah,
yet the best thing, a little bit like in 12-step program that I do in recovery, where we say, attraction, not promotion. It's just
yeah,
live that amazing, create that incredible life for yourself. That's the best way
yeah,
to
yeah,
get those people
yeah,
who have ever tried to tear you down.
yeah. I really, really like that. That's a lovely quote. It's really paves a lot into the work I do with my guys around resentment and that concept of drinking poison and hoping someone else gets hurt. I love
Oh
all that
yeah, I
stuff.
love that one. That's a
Yeah,
good one, that
yeah.
is. Yeah, I've done
Who?
that.
Yeah, many a time. Who is your hero?
Oh gosh, who is my hero? I don't know if I've got a singular hero. My dad is definitely somebody that I hold to very high esteem. He started in restaurants from very, very young age, for like 14. So he worked
Yeah.
his way up from pot washing all the way to like managing director of a company. And
Wow.
he did that at like a big kind of catering company, and he did that at a time when dyslexia wasn't understood. And now we look back, we can see that he was told at the age of 14 he would amount to nothing.
Yeah,
Now we can see it's because of this kind of dyslexia and stuff
yeah,
like that. And I think the fact that he persevered, no matter, regardless of how many people told him he wouldn't be
yeah,
anything more than a pot watcher, has always been very inspiring.
yeah,
And while he is of an older generation, and while he's found the whole fact that he has a daughter who is an addict and an alcoholic incredibly difficult to come to terms with, because
yeah,
weirdly enough it wasn't on his vision board.
yeah,
I hold a lot of respect for him, that he went through very difficult emotions. It wasn't an instant an instant kind of move to compassion. There was some judgment, but he worked through it. He worked through difficult emotions, and he's come through to be one of my biggest champions. And not just mine, all of my friends who are in recovery as well. So again, I admire the fact that anybody who can change and evolve, especially when you're a bit older and stuck in your ways, I think that's a really admirable quality.
Oh, he sounds like a really, really good bloke.
He is, and he lives in a little bubble now, when we just love that, where he just exists to play golf and, you know, fight with the cats and drink tea and eat shortbread, and we just think that's the life we want for all of us.
Yeah, that sounds like a cracking life to me, and he's earned that life by the sounds of it as well.
Exactly.
Yeah. What is a song that always lifts your mood?
It's not necessarily the style of music that I like, but I really like that song, that Little Boo Thing, because it always makes me think of my dog, who I've got a sausage dog called Milo, and the lyrics are like, "You're my little boo thing, out on a hit that I do, baby," and it's such a cheesy song, and I really don't enjoy cheesy music, but I love singing it to him because he hates it, and I'm just like, yay.
Oh, I'm glad
I
you're
love
not.
the songs.
I'm glad
He's
you're
the
not the only
best, though. He
person who
loves it.
sings to your pets.
Oh God, yeah, he absolutely hates it. I love the song. I love disco music when I'm cleaning the house. So I love like September. Oh, I love that tune.
What a
I
tune.
just said the word and he's already gone like, don't.
But no disco, it's Tuesday.
Honestly. So yeah, anything that I can kind of sing and annoying, but yeah, you're my little boo thing is a great one.
I love that. Who would play you in the movie of your life?
Who would I want to? I mean, I've always thought Drew Barrymore and I have a, you know, real.
I can see that.
Right? But the reality would be probably like, I don't know, the guy from Superbad who gets the bad ID. I can't remember his name now. But yeah, somebody just absolutely socially inept and just continually falls down and fails. But no, I mean, Drew Barrymore, in fairness, in real life as well, you know, she is very inspirational in that she, you know, she's not had perfect recovery by any means, but she shares about that, and I think that's so important. I think when she a few years ago was kind of started crying when somebody in her audience, and it turned out they were the hostess or something on a plane, and she was just relapsing, and how this hostess had kind of held her hand and got her through the flight, and just sharing about it. Oh, even now gives me goosebumps. I think I really admire the fact that she hasn't allowed recovery to take away her kooky quirkiness. She's you know, she's mental, she's mad as a hatter still, but she's flawed, and I think, you know, again, that's the kind of recovery I like to see in people. My idol is Courtney Love, though.
Oh really? Yes.
Oh yeah, I love her, but again, I always wanted to be her when I grew up, and ironically,
yes,
here I am.
I succeeded.
Here we both are in AA. Wasn't quite what I meant, but yeah.
Drew Barrymore's a good one for our age group. Drew Barrymore's a classic. Who would do the soundtrack to the movie of your life? We're talking Courtney Love.
Oh God, yeah, absolutely. Hole would get back together. They do lots, all of that. It would be very grungy and just very big guitar solos, and maybe Bonnie Tyler. Do you know who would also pop in? Stevie Nicks would come in.
Yeah,
she'd do a little Fleetwood in there as well.
Yeah, there would be 100%. Like a little witch vibes.
Absolutely. Yeah. That would be in the middle where I find spirituality and, you know,
and she's like,
exactly. She could be my like higher power, maybe.
I'm having this. If you could have dinner with a famous person, dead or alive, who would it be?
Oh my God, what questions? So my favorite actor from when I was a teenager, my obsession, and anyone who knows me as a teenager knows exactly who I'm going to say, was River Phoenix. I just love River Phoenix. Oh, I think, again, our generation. Oh, what a dreamboat. And just, again, just such a talent, and just so sad that he was lost at such a young age. So I would love to have dinner with him and just tell him, you know, that he was just such again, all of us addicts, I'm saying things that we know, complicated, incredibly sensitive, creative, beautiful human that the world felt too big for. And, you know, he used alcohol and drugs, particularly, to numb that. And it's something that we can all really relate to. And it just, it's there's a phrase I'm not I'm not a Bible person, but there's a phrase in the Bible that says there, but for the grace of God go I.
Yeah,
And again, I find that quote to be really kind of powerful, because I look at someone like him and think there's no reason that
yeah,
that couldn't have been me,
yeah,
because I played with my life every single day. I chose to
yeah,
drink and take drugs and whatever else.
yeah,
So yeah, I would love to have dinner with him and then marry him.
yeah. I really resonate with the one with River Phoenix because he was of our age group, wasn't he?
Hmm.
And he's just one of the first persons who was on my radar when I was young of, oh shit, people can die from this, okay?
Hmm.
Like it was like around me and I didn't know that part of it, if that makes sense. So yeah, I really resonate with the idea of River Phoenix and then getting him to the dinner party and being like, come on, we can do
Yeah,
this
don't
together.
go to the club. Don't go to the club that night, River.
Yeah,
Come
don't go
home
to the
with
Viper
me.
rooms.
I know. Well, it's like Amy Winehouse. I think
Yeah,
we've sadly we lost quite a lot of people really young in our generation. Again, these just
yeah.
beautifully massive firecracker characters that all of that. In my 20s, I was working in Camden, and Amy would be in the Hawley Arms across the road, and she'd
Mm,
come into Proud like every other night where I worked. And so I would
yeah,
see her, and it was so exciting and felt so
yeah,
glamorous to have
yeah,
Baby Shambles were in there every night. It was
yeah,
just all exciting, but it's so sad to now, 20 years later, see who's still here and the remnants of
yeah.
who's here and the lives that those people have. And
It
it's
was,
yeah, I mean, I had lovely times, amazing times, and times that are not for this podcast is, but also
yeah,
it does kind of break your heart a
yeah.
little bit.
It was really romanticized, wasn't it? That kind of era, that kind of
Mm-hmm.
enemy peak era it was really, I
100%.
remember that. I'm not blaming on that, but that played a huge part for me of my idols
100%.
were all doing it. And it that awful bit when you're teens, 20s where it seems romantic. Like,
Oh
yeah,
God, yeah.
yeah,
Absolutely. I mean, every magazine would be talking about Pete Doherty and Kate Moss and the fact that he was actively taking drugs and not even hiding about it. And the
yeah,
headlines weren't saying, oh my gosh, there's an unwell person. Somebody should really be looking out for him. I
yeah,
wonder if his mental health is okay. Is
yeah,
he going to, it was like Pete Doherty does cocaine with Kate
yeah,
Moss. And
yeah,
there she is looking stunningly beautiful. And again, I
yeah,
think that's 100% for me as well. Something that kept me from recovery for a very long time is that the fact
yeah,
that I identified and wanted to identify with that group and that
yeah,
demographic. So I wanted to be that
yeah,
person, but the reality is that that person doesn't exist. It's
yeah.
fictitious.
And
The
also that person is
reality of
very ill. Yeah. Which we
100%.
wouldn't have
And the
seen that at that time. Yeah.
never, because well, but yeah, you kind of think to yourself, and I did do this, and there was a film out as well called 13 when we were
Yeah.
that kind of age.
Yeah.
And again, there was Requiem for a Dream, and look, these
Yeah.
films all ended terribly, but there was certain parts where it really was romanticized.
Yeah.
And I would watch those and think, I want to do that. I want to be free like they look to be. I want to
Yeah.
be loved and accepted like they look to be.
Yeah.
Then you go and do those things, and you're like, hang on a minute.
Doesn't look like
They didn't
that.
show this. They didn't show this
Yeah.
scene in the movie.
Yeah.
Why
Yeah.
am I sat here alone, crying into my duvet with
Yeah.
no money and nobody calling me, and
Yeah.
everyone's angry at me? And this part wasn't in the film. Where's Kate
No.
Moss?
Yeah. I must have skipped past this bit. Where's the soundtrack? Like,
Yeah,
yeah.
why don't I look beautiful, like a beautiful waif with my little lacy dress and my like perfect makeup? Why am I blotchy, bloated, fat,
Yeah.
throwing up?
Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
this
It's
is not what I've
horrible, isn't
signed
it?
up for.
But yeah, no, I really, really resonate with that age group of at the time. Seemed like a great idea. Seemed
Hmm.
like a great idea. So
Mm.
this moves us in nicely to the next bit. So now we're going to move into the big stuff. So what was your DOC? What was your drug of choice?
Um, I smoked so very early on. I'm very late to addiction, and drinking badly. And again, this is something that kept me out of getting help, because I drank very normally.
Mm,
Actually, I don't need the bunny ears. It was normal for
yeah,
the kind of beginning part of my life. Most of my 20s, I worked in hospitality. I was training to be a sommelier. I worked as a cocktail bartender. So alcohol was really something that I was studying,
yeah,
and therefore I had like a real interest and respect and ADHD hyperfocus, it turns out, on.
yeah,
So alcohol I would drink to excess, but not to a worrying level at the time. Cocaine, however, was introduced in hospitality very early on, and the glamour around that, like we've just touched on, was something that for me, I don't even know if I like cocaine because of the effect, but it was everything that surrounded it, just feeling like the coolest kid in the party,
Yeah.
and the status it felt like it gave you. For me, that was, and then what I didn't know at the time, which again, with my diagnoses of neurodiversity later, cocaine was working for my brain the way that it doesn't for other people's, in that it would relax me.
Yeah.
And it had that opposite. So I would have moments. So for me, the best thing would be finishing work, go home, a few lines of cocaine, watch a box set, go to bed. People are
Yeah.
like, what? That
Yeah.
makes literally no sense. But
Yeah.
it was one of the very few things that would calm my brain. And therefore I loved it. And there were
Yeah.
times that I really thought that I was really scared I would never be able to stop. And I never had that with alcohol until probably the last 2 or 3 years of drinking.
Yeah.
It really suddenly got fast for me, which
Yeah.
again is something that happens, I think, for a lot of us.
Yeah.
We get whispers that maybe our life is probably not looking great and we could probably change it, but we
Yeah.
ignore it
Yeah. Yeah.
because we know
That
best.
goes really nicely into the next question of how old were you when you realised, okay, I might have a problem here?
God, I can't keep lying about my age now, can I?
Oh, I'm so sorry.
I
I'm
think
so sorry.
so. I had glimpses. I had a boyfriend when I was like 23, who was a daily drinker, and so I very much kind of mirrored his behavior. But I never. It was when that relationship, which was very codependent, very abusive, when that broke up, that was the first time I realized that alcohol could be something to be used for anything other than just socially or within my job.
Yeah.
And I then just had these kind of like little spurts. So I would have these things happen really bad, lose a job, lose a partner, have an argument with a friend, lean on alcohol, everything would get very dark for a few weeks. Oh, life's okay again. Stop
Yeah.
drinking, da, 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 or drink like a hospitality worker, which, side note, we now know is a really unhealthily,
Yeah.
because it's still daily drinking, but our industry doesn't really, I mean, it's changing, but certainly at the time, the excessiveness of it
Yeah.
was just very commonplace. The time I can remember though, when suddenly I had those thoughts of panic of, I haven't got any wine at home,
Yeah.
oh dear, was probably when I was around 35. So I've 4.5 years sober. I stopped drinking in, what year are we now? 26, 21. And so I was, how old was I? I'm trying to think my real age, 38 when I stopped drinking. Yeah, there we go. So I probably, yeah, about 35, about 3 years before it really became, I got to that stage where I would get a little bit panicky at the thought of not having, not an excessive amount, but one glass.
Yes. Yeah.
Just one glass, and I could
Yeah.
have just one glass. But do you know what? After 6 months, oh, it's two glasses,
Yeah.
and then suddenly it's okay. It's two glasses, and I've also got another bottle in my bag. And when my housemates
Yeah.
go to sleep, I'll finish that. So yeah, maybe a little bit younger, maybe like 34, 33, 34, that kind of time, just before I left London and moved back to Worcester. London was really, it was become just increasingly challenging for me to maintain any kind of normalcy, balance within
Yeah.
that industry, as well as being alone. And so I think I was probably on a precipice, maybe, yeah, kind of like 32, 33. I'm going to keep going back. I was 21. Well, that's again, that's the thing, I think, weirdly, and it's weird, that question, because if you asked me that question when I was first in recovery, I would have said, oh, it's only been a problem for a year.
Yeah.
And then a bit of time goes on and you start to look at your past with slightly more honest eyes,
Yeah.
and you kind of, it's almost like watching things thaw, and suddenly you're like, oh, hang on a minute, oh god, yeah, 32 wasn't a great year, oh fuck,
Yeah.
maybe 31 wasn't such
And
a
then you
great year.
peel it back. Yeah. I've spoken to a
Yeah,
couple of guys who've got like decades behind them, and they said, if I'm honest, probably as soon as the first time I drank, I thought,
yeah.
oh, there's something happening here and stuff. Like I suppose it's that difference of when did you consciously think, oh, this
Mm.
is a problem now. So you've touched on it
I
quite a
def
lot. Oh, sorry, you carry
No,
on.
I was just going to say, I was like, I definitely, and I think this is something, again, that neurodivergent people have a real challenge with. I drank the way I saw others drink.
Yes.
And so when I would be in my 20s, if I was out with people who were just drinking straight vodka, I'd drink straight vodka.
Yep.
If I was with people that were drinking fine wine, I'd just drink fine wine. And I was
Yeah.
very influenced by who I was around. And I think it's
Yeah.
something that we really need to have that awareness of, because
Yeah.
again, who knows? I'm not necessarily someone who believes born an addict and therefore I had no hope.
Yeah.
I definitely was always going to be in the running because of
Yeah.
being neurodivergent, though, and
Yeah.
not knowing how to cope with my brain in a way
Yeah.
other than
This
numbing.
is this is why I was so excited to have you on the show today. So I have my own experience of, so I found out, realized I had autism later on in my life. So my addiction stuff was kind of not past me because it's always there, but was managed. And then when I look at it back, I think, oh my God, the role that played was huge. And obviously, I work in a community drug and alcohol service where now the language of I have a neurodiversity is being felt by people. And so I was really excited to have you on here to be able to articulate the impact that neurodivergence has
Yeah.
on substance use. So I suppose going into the bulk now of it, your story, which you kind of touched on it from wherever you want to start from, talk to me about your addiction and your recovery and the role that your neurodivergence played on that.
I think exactly that. It's when you get a diagnosis later in life, there's a lot of dialogue around what's the point?
Yeah.
Who needs it? What's the point? And for me, it was incredibly important because it was the answer to the question that I've been asking all my life, which is what's wrong with me? I'm
Yeah.
not saying that there's anything wrong with you if you're neurodivergent, but that's how I grew up feeling.
Yeah.
There's something wrong with me. I'm not quite right. Everybody else seems to be getting on with the world and getting on with life and relationships. Never had a
Yeah.
proper boyfriend, friendships that would come and go. Like,
Yeah.
why do I just find it's funny every time I move house, I keep quite a lot of my like cards, and I've constantly got these cards from parents kind of going, congrats on the new job, this is the one, this time
Yeah.
you've got this, because it would just be this constant cycle of like doing well and collapsing.
Yeah.
And therefore understanding that I was first got diagnosed with ADHD and then autistic, which is very much something that we're finding females are having, this combination diagnoses. And
Yeah.
it's interesting to see kind of like the research around why. But to have that answer so many questions, there was that huge grieving process as to therefore why what happened to me happened, and then why I made those choices. And therefore, neurodiversity plays a bigger role than I even realized. It doesn't take away the blame, but it gives me, sorry, the responsibility, but
Yeah.
it gives me that understanding to know that I really struggle with rejection sensitivity disorder. I
Yeah.
have a word for it now. So when I work in a feedback industry, wherein every day I would get millions of pieces of feedback. Thank you for my dinner, great cocktail, da 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 da. And as always, there's one negative, there's somebody who didn't like something you did, or maybe the boss, the manager who's doing 70 hours, who themselves is pouring from an empty cup, snaps at you.
Yeah.
Well, Shell, why can't you just do this properly? Or I was continually making mistakes, not on purpose, but not realizing that I'm also got dyslexia,
Yeah.
that I would really struggle. I would do a report and I could swear with a gun to my head that I completed it correctly,
Yeah.
walk back and be like, has a fairy come and
Yeah.
changed it,
Yeah.
And I just couldn't see it. But because I didn't have words to understand it, instead, shame, blame, you're stupid, you're
Yeah.
idiot, reinforced by managers who would tell me that.
Yeah.
What am I going to do? I'm going to do anything to get out of that feeling. Look, food helps, but do you know what helps more? Drugs and alcohol.
Yeah. Yeah.
And the moment I think my brain realized that that was a perfect way to escape the reality. And what makes it worse is that the reality was of my own creating,
Yeah.
creation.
Yeah.
So add that on as well. And I would just see people thriving around me and thriving in roles. And I just was continually not,
Yeah.
not because of effort, not because of the hours I put in. And therefore, the moment I would get home and I would shut the door and shut the world away, and I could take off what I would call showgirl shell, take off the mask that we wear where we pretend that we're okay. And I had almost had a physical mask. I used to dress in a certain, again, these are things I've now learned are part of that neurodivergence. I would wear a certain type of dress and a certain type of makeup that almost made me look like I looked a bit like a drag queen, in fairness, but like creating this character that I wasn't.
Yeah.
Take that off and sit down, and a regulated, potentially neurotypical, certainly somebody who had coping skills in their back pocket would sit there, maybe journal, have a reflective moment, look and find their part in it, and also think, okay, but this is where it wasn't my fault. No, neurodivergent brain, you're a fucking idiot, you might as well kill yourself. Why are you doing this? You've just failure.
Just zero compassion, just non-existent.
Absolutely nothing. And look, at the end of the day, a lot of it wasn't imagined. I was getting in a lot of trouble. It was, some of it was imagined, because that's the problem with rejection sensitivity. Somebody might say something is quippy, is like, oh gosh, Shell, I hate it when you wear that perfume. Oh, look, my sister, she's gonna be annoyed that I've mentioned this. She made a comment about my heels. I've always got really dry, I hate feet. We were on holiday a couple of weeks ago, and she said something. I tried on I was looking at a sandal, and I was like, oh, what about these? And she went, oh, not with your heels. She was just being funny,
but when you've got RSD,
I tell you, it's been about 4 weeks, and even this morning I put socks on, in my head going, well, with my heels I better wear socks. It fucking stays and it burns. And it that's when I hate that word, well, you should be more resilient. No, there's no such thing. And again, I think especially in hospitality, I felt I should be more resilient to everything. It was a big dialogue around it. There, even and my dad and I have spoken to this, my dad would say to me, maybe you're not strong enough for the industry. And that would fucking, because I was like, it's, and now obviously again, education, we know it's not the industry necessary. We do still fall out over that sometimes, but it wasn't that it wasn't that I wasn't strong enough. It's that I didn't know who I was, and therefore I wasn't giving myself a fucking chance. You go into a ring with your hands tied behind your back, not knowing your hands are tied behind your back, wondering why you keep getting punched. It's like,
I think as well, the RSD thing, the rejection sensitivity disorder stuff, huge in why people carry on using, because when you go through a terribly traumatized life where maybe parents haven't been what you need them to be, teachers, members of the public, if you think of people street homeless with ADHD, that constant judgment of your coping skill makes me sick. That when you have RSD is like, how can you drop that? Like it's just a never-ending cycle. And I think the world's awareness of ADHD and autism is improving, but I think that rejection sensitivity disorder stuff is huge for people to understand.
And thank God that they don't all understand it, because it hurts. And but at the same time, again, and it's like that whole snowflake thing, but it doesn't mean we have to be treated like snowflakes. But there is a way, and it's interesting, if you look at the correlation between crimes committed and alcohol, and I can't remember the exact statistic, but it's something ridiculous, like 78% of crimes have alcohol involved. And then you look at the number of underdiagnosed, that we suspect ADHD, autistic young people, and you then look at the statistic of addiction and neurodiversity, and then you put that all together in a little melting pot, and you realize, my God, if we start to get this right, and we start to support people, and it's not about snowflake and, oh God, Susan has to sit in a special room because she can't handle bright lights, but it's about really kind of individualized education and therapy and support, so that we can all just thrive and be at our best. The reality is, and the sad thing this will never happen, but the reality is the correlation between addiction will probably drop. And do you know what? The best people in the world, when you're in active addiction, will do things that you would never dream of. The stories that I've heard in the rooms, and I'm sure you're very similar, and you'll look at this person sat there in their little twin set with their little pearl necklace, and you'll be like, you did what? Like the levels that you see, you're not you become your disease, and you're not who you are. And that's why
Yeah.
there is so much crime. It's not because people are sitting at home like Ocean's 11 plotting shit out and like being devious. It's no one will understand that desperation, and you become a feral. It's like the guy in Lord of the Rings, you know, the goblin thing, Gollum.
Gollum. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it is, you know. And you know, a year out of that, suddenly Susan can work in accounting again.
Yeah.
um
Yeah. Yeah.
but it's and yeah, so for me, I think that's a big missing piece, is that lack of, again, it's like everything. It's like I talk about hospitality. It's not about looking at the person and thinking, how can I fix them, what's wrong with them. It's about the system around it,
Yeah.
and what's not working properly within that,
Yeah.
and how that needs to change.
Yeah, and what matters to that person as well. That's a really big thing. What matters to you? Like, yeah, it's a really, really missing piece, and I think that's why I really wanted to have you on here to be able to explain. I think there will be people listening to this who don't maybe even realize they have ADHD, don't have autism, and I talk about it a lot. I run a smart meeting, and a lot I talk about with the guys, like, you're so willing and happy to give yourself the label of addict
Mm,
or criminal, but the minute someone asks you to give yourself a diagnosis of maybe this isn't all your fault, they don't like it. It's
yeah, it's
it's
weird,
like,
that,
no, no,
isn't
no.
it?
What? Why are you taking the blame from me? And it's like, I'm not taking the blame from you. Look, we're accountable for our own actions, but maybe if you knew this sooner, like, it might have been
Mm.
different. It's fascinating, I think.
So much stigma around it still. Like, even like my very first sponsor, who, and late now, and weirdly, because I've gone through my own, and again, because I like to do everything loudly, you know, I talk about my diagnoses, and I wear it, and I shout when I was in the airport a couple of
Yeah.
weeks ago, I'm disabled, let me through, and things
Yeah.
like that. You know, I take what I'm entitled to, because I want others to know that they can do that.
Yeah.
It's that she herself is only kind of, even though the moment I met her, I was like, ADHD much.
Yeah.
She'll now put in, like, you know, messages. She'll be like, you know, like us neurospicy people think.
Yeah.
And I'm like, my brain is just like, I'm not gonna kind of shout out, but I'm in my head, I'm like, I'm so proud of her, because
Yeah.
I can remember the time it was a case of, I don't need another label, I don't want another label, it's enough that I'm already X and Y. And I think that's
Yeah.
because it's got such a negative connotation. You know, great, I'm already a fucking addict, and then I'm an
Yeah.
alcoholic. Now you want me to be autistic as well?
Yeah.
Like, how many more things? You know,
Yeah.
again, none of this was on our parents' vision board. You
No.
know, I'll rather be a criminal. And weird, that's one of the reasons that the socks that I do that have a very naughty C word on them, that's one
Yeah.
of the reasons that I have the naughty socks, because it really kind of questions, what are you more embarrassed, or what are you more fearful about having
Yeah.
on a sock? The word, I won't, am I allowed to swear? I've
You can
sworn a
swear.
lot. I was going to say too late, because
You
I
can
do.
swear.
You know, what's more offensive to you? What's more offensive to the
Yeah.
people looking? The word sober or the word cunt?
Yes.
What are you having
What is
harder
more
time?
offensive for you? Yeah. Yeah.
And
I
I think
love
that's
that.
really interesting.
Yeah.
What are you personally, and also the people reading it? Weirdly enough, it's normally the C word, but
Yeah.
still,
Yeah.
because people are idiots.
Yeah. Yeah. When I run a meeting, I'll talk about people's complex trauma and they'll be like, oh, sorry, I've just used the C word. And it's crazy, isn't it? Yeah.
Oh yeah, that's the word I don't. Yeah, I don't like that C word as much.
Yeah.
Context PTSD. But
Yeah.
again, things that we're learning about. I mean, that again, that whole like trauma piece and stuff. You know, I've only been sober for 4.5 years, and I can remember when I first came into recovery, Gabor Mate had only just suddenly
Yeah.
become as widely spoken to, and but I can remember being really young, like 16, 17, and having this chat with a friend, and she remembers it, and saying to her, I feel that my trauma feels to me as big as the trauma as somebody who's been robbed or whatever. And
Yeah.
she was
Yeah.
saying to me, don't be stupid, that's not true. And I said, no, but like it feels that.
Yeah.
And I'm like, yeah, basically Gabor Mate stole my
Yes.
idea,
Yeah.
is what I'm
Yeah.
trying to say.
Yeah.
But I think, you know, I always had this kind of feeling that that trauma really does hit people in ways that it's not about what happened, but it's about
Yeah.
how it happened and how it made you
Yeah.
feel.
You
And that we
you
need to give
experience
ourselves some forgiveness for that.
yeah, you experience that a lot in the rooms, kind of trauma wars, and you think, stop, 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 stop. What you actually experience as a human being that's the stuff that matters, like how you
Yeah.
were left feeling from it. And I think we have come such a long way, because when I first started this job around 12 years ago, and I'd already was in recovery by that point, the language of trauma was not used.
Mm-mm.
It was
Mm-mm.
it was not used. It was, addiction is a disease or a choice. That simple. That wasn't put out there. Is it actually the result of someone trying to cope with
Mm-hmm.
something awful that's happened, or a neurodiversity and something awful that's happened, and complex mental health conditions? It's I think about the idea of how far it's all come in the last kind of 10 years, of what addiction treatment could look like in the next 10 years
Yeah.
and stuff. And it's really brilliant, I think, that people are
It
now
is.
more open to not being the villain of their own story anymore.
And also, hopefully, it's a bit like that film Minority Reports, where they catch people before they murder people. Like,
Yes.
I really hope that we manage to get to a space where we catch people before it has to. Because, like I say, I don't believe that people are born to be addicts. That's not my narrative. And I do believe that people can, therefore, be helped before they create
Yes.
these horrendous dependencies. And
Yeah.
it doesn't mean that, oh gosh, maybe if I'd been helped 15 years ago, I would be able to have a chablis today with my dinner.
Yeah.
That's not what my aim is, because to be honest, again, one of the greatest things about coming into recovery is realizing what alcohol actually is. And it's just a poison.
Yeah.
And again,
Yes.
like, I'm now one of those sober wankers that has like magnesium in the morning, and makes sure my protein is,
Yeah.
proteins are getting some great PR right now.
Yeah.
And, so I actually, even if I could drink safely, I wouldn't want to, because
Want
I
to.
now
Yeah.
know what it is.
Yeah.
So that's kind of not the goal with the whole, like, well, if maybe we catch people beforehand, they can be regular social drinkers. That's
No.
not the goal, but it's about being able to have, we've got one life. And so many of us, myself included, spend so much of it in pain.
Yeah.
And if we can do something that just helps people just shave off a fraction of that,
Yeah.
then there's got to be a good
Yeah.
thing.
And shame, the removal of shame is so deeply important, because the
Mm.
shame cycle is what keeps people using and keeps people poorly and keeps people from asking for help and support. And I think anything that can remove even a percentage of the shame changes a
Yeah.
lot of things, I think.
Yeah, I even had shame because I wasn't a very good addict and alcoholic. Even that
Yeah.
kept me out of it, out of recovery, because I was
Yeah.
like, well, I'm not like the way that they see it on TV. I'm not
Yeah.
Leonardo DiCaprio in Basketball Diaries, snot
Yeah.
all out, coming out my nose,
Yes.
screaming for money. And weirdly, like that, I was like, fuck, I can't even do this right. And
Yeah.
then
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
was even had shame around that, weirdly. And,
Yeah.
I think that it was weird actually, as you were talking about it. It's like not being diagnosed with neurodivergence is, in a way, a complex post-traumatic
Yes.
stress, because I had so much traumatic experiences based on not having that diagnosis,
Yeah.
that again, there's almost like the last kind of 2 years, even though I'm in recovery, which again classically happens, sorry if you're new to recovery, people, your life gets a little bit shit.
Yeah.
Then it gets better, but
Yes.
eventually, because I had to go through a huge grieving process of everything that had happened, everything that now won't happen, and also just the whole being an addict and an alcoholic is traumatic.
It is.
It's really traumatic. Like we were saying about Susan, and what she would get up to. Like, you do things that you couldn't imagine, that
Yes.
even to this day you probably haven't shared with anybody other than a close
Yeah.
a close couple type thing. And again, I don't think we necessarily always talk about that enough, because we're very fast to say, congratulations, you've got 1 month, you've got 2 months, and you're
Yeah.
like gripping on, and you're like, yeah, I love my new life, I do running now.
Yeah.
But let's just really sit and talk about, do you know what you went through? Like, grieve the fact that you became that person.
Yeah.
Don't dwell in it, but take that moment and
Yeah.
and apologize to yourself. In 12 steps, when we make amends, that biggest amends is to yourself.
Yourself, and that
And
forgiveness for yourself. Yeah.
100%. And again, it doesn't give you a get out of jail free card, but it's a journey. And
Yeah.
again, Year 1 into recovery, no compassion for self. Year 2, probably still none. Year 3, getting there. Year 4, I can now look back at that person I was in my 20s, and I'm just so sad for them. I'm
Yeah.
not angry. I used to be quite angry at them for their
Yeah.
decision. I'm really sad for them. But
Yeah.
I'm not now in grief. I can at least now just be like, I'm really sad that happened to you. But I'm now going to put in the action to make sure that the
To make
second
sure this
half
doesn't
of my
happen
life is
again.
going to be
Yeah.
a good half,
Yeah.
and that hopefully other people will also benefit from that.
Yeah.
But again, it really is a process, which is
Yeah.
not what newcomers want to hear.
Yeah. But it is, isn't it? I think for me, I think I always try to say to people I speak to, like, the more prepared you are for the stuff that's coming, the more you'll be able to handle it when you get there.
Mm.
So for yourself, when you decided I'm not doing this anymore, did you go straight into the rooms? How did it work for you?
I realized I lost my job in 2019, I guess it would have been. I was caught drinking, and by my boss Rupert, who is still a very dear friend, and he was on my podcast as well. And we didn't know what we didn't know, and what we didn't know is exactly that the industry is just such a facilitator. And what really should have happened is that I was really spiraling, and I should have had a mental health check, and I should have been
Yeah.
taken out of the business, and all of these lovely things. But we
Yeah.
didn't, what we didn't know, what we didn't know. And so all that happened was I was struggling with the business mentally during COVID. The business was incredibly challenging, but that was built on top of 20 years plus of trauma. It was
Yeah.
like that, it was the spark that lit the fire, the canister or whatever. And so when I was caught drinking, it was, you're fired, misconduct, bad person,
Yeah.
all of these things. And so I kind of knew that something had to change, but I was so ashamed. I didn't tell anybody. I pretended I was on, what was it called? When COVID people weren't working, but they were getting paid.
Furlough.
Yeah, furlough. I pretended it was all my choice, all of
Yeah.
these types of things. And even though my parents knew that the truth, they didn't even say to me, because again, at the time, my parents, they again can only do with what they knew at the time, were probably quite ashamed and
Yeah.
scared and didn't know what to do either, and maybe a bit angry and all of that. So I went to a couple of meetings, and I saw nobody that looked like me, nobody that sounded like me, and just thought, okay, this is a bit weird, talking about
Yeah.
God. It's just, yeah, nothing. There's no part of this that kind of grabbed me. I'd go every kind of, there was one guy who I absolutely loved. He was hilarious. And I knew I would go to his meeting because he was always really encouraging, and he would always laugh at my jokes and stuff like that. But I was effectively just going for them. And I did what is the hardest thing, which is I just tried to stop without any help.
Mm.
And you get 3 weeks, and then to
Yep.
reward myself for proving that I didn't have a problem, I would have a 2-day bender.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because nothing says that you're not an alcoholic like drinking for 2 days.
Yeah. Yeah.
And again, that kind of like window was just getting smaller and smaller and smaller. And I just thought, I was just so unhappy, because that's why I was drinking. I was in a lot of pain, and I was really unhappy, and I was so lost, and I was so lonely, and I was so isolated. And yet I was continually like, I'm fine. The film The Joker, how like by the end his makeup's just like, so
Yeah.
showgirl Shell, who used to be all perfect, like it was like the metaphorical.
Yeah.
It was all just slipping away, and I didn't, oh no, I still look fine, twitching away.
Yeah.
And I hadn't drank for a little while. I think it had been a good for like 4 weeks. And I still, and I say this, I don't know what made me do it. Was it the universe? Was it a higher power? Who knows? Was it, do you know, maybe I really don't know, but my parents were away. My sister and I were at my parents' house, and I drank, and I don't know why. And my sister caught me, and she was so angry because, what are you doing? Why?
Yeah.
Because the impact it was having on her, obviously, as well, all the fighting and all of that. And I just thought, I can't do this anymore. And I got into the car, and my plan was to just go home and take an overdose. I was
Yeah.
done, because I just didn't know how to stop,
Yeah.
and I didn't know how to ask for help. And
Yeah.
I was so ashamed at not being able to be a normal drinker.
Yeah.
And I was so ashamed that I wasn't able to just stop and be, quote unquote, as my dad was screaming at me at the time, why can't you be normal? All these things, again, that, we just, desperately want to be, but we don't know how. And I was driving and I was like, I can't do this. I just turned the wheel and just smashed it into what I thought was a wall, my car, with the intent to kind of to kill myself. But it wasn't a wall, it was a bush.
Thank God.
Yeah, the car sadly didn't walk away, but I did. And you know, the very next day I kind of got back from the hospital, very bruised, but nothing. But again, nobody knew what to do. My family were terrified that nobody had the language. You know, the doctor, the hospital say, well, the crisis team will call you, and they do. But my sister, and so she was probably the one, she kind of had gone online and she was like, there's an AA meeting tomorrow. We're all going. There's Al-Anon on the other side of the hall. And I was like, yeah, well, I've been to that one a few times anyway, you know,
Yeah.
still trying with, you know, even when you're like in absolute pieces, that the ego, right, is still
Yeah.
there going like
Yeah.
this. And so we went to this first meeting, like, even though I'd been, but I for the first time went and was like completely defenseless, you know, covered in bruises. Like I couldn't hold my head. I actually had like a really bad neck for, I didn't realize, for a good couple of months in recovery, because I didn't realize how I'd just been looking down. I hadn't been looking anyone in the eyes for
Yeah.
like for months. You know, I was so full of shame and like my whole
Yeah.
posture and stuff. And you know, I sat next to, there's an amazing share. This woman just kind of like was so dynamic, and I sat next to a girl who shared how she looks in the mirror and she just hates what she sees. And I just was like, that feels like me. And it was that
Yes.
first time. And the great thing about any kind of community-based recovery, like SMART, like community centres, whatever it is that the moment the meeting was over, I was swarmed by people. It was like I was a bit of toast, and you know, seagulls were like, fuck yeah.
Yeah.
And I had phone numbers thrown at me. And just for that next kind of 24, 48 hours, I didn't have to think. I
Yes.
had people going, right, you're coming to this meeting, you're calling this person, you're doing this, here's some weird thing to breed. And that's what I needed.
Yeah.
And before I knew it, you know, I held that little 24-hour coin, like as if I felt if I put it down, all my sobriety would go.
Yeah.
And then, yeah, and then like before, you know, it was that 7 days. And then, okay, and it was having people around me that championed me. I went to meetings every day. I carried on working, you know, I managed to at least continue that facade, and not many people knew what was going on because
Yeah.
again I was ashamed. I
Yeah.
was didn't want to say that I was in trouble and this is what I was doing, but
Yeah.
I was meeting these people that were not like the people I thought I was going to meet. They were my age and you
Yeah.
know, young and cool, and some of them were older and they were so soft and lovely. And you know, it was just such a wonderful, it was the people that really got me to commit to it,
Yeah.
you know. And then you had to do the fucking work and it was like, oh,
Yeah.
this is rubbish.
That annoying
um,
bit.
yeah, but that's the people that kept me coming back. And
Yeah.
most of my meetings that I do are online, which is what I still do, because
Yeah.
like I've just that's where I found my people. And I've got
Yeah.
now so many friends that I've then met in real life. And
Yeah.
I couldn't, you know, I would never do now risk anything to lose what is on paper a far more, I just, not necessarily as glamorous and not as exciting, and you know, it's not that kind of fast paced or anything life, but it's a good, honest life.
Yeah.
And I have peace when I go to bed. And that was on that very first day when the next day after, and the person who then ended up being my sponsor, what do you want? I was like, I just want peace. I just want to go to bed and
Yeah.
have peace. And now I do. You know, I shut my eyes and I go to sleep, and
Yeah.
I review my day and I think, okay, where have I been a dick? Okay, and where do I need to apologize? And what am I grateful for? Gratitude.
Yeah.
And I wake up in the morning and I don't have dread in my stomach, and I don't look at my phone waiting to see who hates me. And
Yeah.
you know, it's just,
That's
it's
the
so,
magic part, isn't it? When
oh, it
all of a
is.
sudden it's that anxiety and all of it just comes down to a more natural state. Yeah.
Absolutely. I mean, I still hate getting mail, but you know,
Yeah.
other than, you know, because it might be a bill, but even stuff like that, you know, not having fear around checking my bank balance, not having fear
Yeah.
against an unknown phone number, just, you know, all of that stuff, the drama and the chaos
Yeah.
has just subsided. And anything now that does come up, at least even if it does feel overwhelming, I have my personal toolkit, and I've also got everyone around me
Yeah.
that I can say, hey guys, this is going on. And I had a really
Yeah.
difficult time this Christmas. I really struggle in the winter. A lot of people do with seasonal affective.
Yeah.
And it really gets me down. I have fibromyalgia, so my pain gets really hard in the cold weather. And I have people that come to me and go, Shell, you're not yourself. Are you okay? What can we do? People
Yeah.
notice that I'm not okay. It's even
Yeah.
that is a real gift. And so
Yeah.
I recommend it.
We hear a lot of people really panicking about, if I stop using, what about my friends, and it'll be a lonely existence. And it's like, might be for a bit, but actually the other side of it, you might not have as many people in your life, but the quality of the person in your life who will support you and be there for you and not be an inner critic voice from the
Yeah.
outside, that's so valuable. I love that story you told of within your first meeting, just people bombarding you with, let me help you, this is the design of how you do it. Like, you can't do it on your own. You can't.
No, and when people come into recovery rooms and they say, oh, I've been sober for 2 years, but this is my first meeting, I'm like, are you fucking insane? It's like
Yeah.
a woman saying that they've given childbirth naturally. You're just
Yeah.
like, why would you do that when there
Why are
is
you doing
something
that
that
to
can help
yourself?
you?
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
why would you, no one gives you a medal. It's
Yeah, at
horrible. And
least come to the meetings for the bloody biscuits. Like, come
yeah,
on.
literally. Oh, the
Yeah.
biscuits are top tier.
Yeah.
And yeah, you do lose friends, but actually they're not friends, because what I thought was a friend was not a friend. And I've learned actually what friendship is, without starting to sound like an Instagram post. But I've learned what real friendship is. I never had many female friends, as many female friends growing up as I do now. And I now
Yeah.
have, what we annoyingly call, we're sisters,
Yeah.
we can be ugly to each other. We can show up in ways that I can never show up to anybody in my life and still be accepted. And I've also got that with friends that I used to have. I now have significantly better friendships with them, because I'm now actually being a friend to them, rather than just being something that kept them up at night worrying. And so yeah, it's not that you lose friends, you lose entities, you lose people.
Yeah.
And again, without sounding like an Instagram quote, the best part of it as well is that you get to realize you're okay being on your own. And sitting on my own used to be the most ugly, the disgusting. That's when the alcohol, I couldn't be alone without drinking, because that's when my brain wouldn't shut up. And now, just ask my friends. I love them leaving me alone.
Yeah.
I can be on my own, and I have my little dog, obviously, so I'm never really alone, but I can be at peace with just sitting with him and watching the ocean, like the sea in Bournemouth, or walking with him. And I don't need to have people constantly. And if you told me that would have been the fear of being sat just to sit with me in my own thoughts.
Whereas
And
now it's
I can
lovely.
do it. And I don't actually have as many thoughts, because I don't have as many things to be angry about myself. My thoughts are like, oh, I wonder what I'll have for dinner. Maybe I will wear that dress tomorrow. Oh, that's a good box set. Rather than, fuck, who have I lied to? Have I got any money? Oh my God, I need to dodge and dive and duck and da 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 da. Weirdly, my head is calmer, because I don't got all that chaos happening.
Yeah, it's definitely one that we would recommend to people, isn't it?
Definitely. Then again, it takes time. It doesn't mean, suddenly you need to be able to sit in a silent retreat for a week, and again, let's not add that layers of shame. That's again the reason that I created, one of the reasons I created We Recover Loudly, but the reason that I choose to go down a route of it being a little bit cheeky and a little bit more in your face in terms of brashness and stuff, is because for me, when I got into sobriety, I started to then feel shame about not being the right sober. I didn't lose a load of weight. I haven't become a yoga queen. I fucking hate running.
Yes.
It is different because I got this chronic condition at the same time as I got sober. But I was just like, hang on a minute, just because I'm sober doesn't mean I now wear pashminas and enjoy lilac and, want to watch, like Bridgerton. I still swear, I still very often don't hit my 5 a day target for vegetables. Sugar is a real issue for me. I definitely don't wash my hair as often as I should. I want to be able to still show up in the world as a massive cunt if I want to be. I think, again, there is that kind of added layers of shame when we think to ourselves, am I even doing sobriety right? So
that
you know.
perfectionism thing, just if you can give anyone permission, just don't do that. Like, just do you.
Absolutely. Sobriety recovery is a mess and it's hard, and we are messy people, but we're fighters and we're warriors, and nobody gets through anything like we've been through without being battle scarred, and we should wear those with pride, you
With
know,
pride,
like
yeah.
shout about it. And when someone asks about it, you know, have the confidence to share, because, you know, again, it might not be the person that you're speaking to that you're impacting, but it's the person that they then speak to, and it's the
Yeah.
person behind them. And, you know, again, it doesn't mean that if you're not, it doesn't mean that if you don't want to shout about it, that, you know, you're not, again, doing it right. But that's again why I really like the kind of like the socks and stuff. There's that subtle little nod, you know, people can just be walking and see that word sober on your ankle, and they can go, okay. And
yeah,
you know, it's that kind of little superhero
yeah,
pieces that help
yeah,
you through your day, navigating the way that the world is, you know.
yeah.
Choosing to be sober in the world that we live in now is, for me, the most punk ass brave thing
I
you can
think so.
do.
Yeah,
And so, you know, props however you do it, however it looks to you. It's fucking brilliant.
yeah, yeah. I totally agree. So before we finish up, we recover loudly. Tell our audience about what you are and what you do.
Yeah, so it stemmed off the phrase that we hear in recovery rooms, we recover loudly to stop others dying quietly, which really resonated with me because, as I've said already, when I came into recovery, I didn't see somebody like me. And I was looking, and especially in my industry, I didn't see anybody in hospitality at the time, which is literally only 4 years ago, who was saying that they were sober and they could still work in the industry. And it has changed in a very short period of time. But I knew that I couldn't be the only one, and I was angry that I felt like I'd failed at hospitality because I wasn't able to keep up, you know, or drink like everybody else. So I started a podcast because it was a relatively low cost way of me getting out this message. And like I say, this is determination that I wasn't the only one. I had to find other people like me to, in a way, in the beginning, it was part of that healing. It was part of me being able to say, I told you it wasn't just me. I told you I wasn't a bad person. I told you that the industry has systemic issues. I told you that, you know, there was a bigger picture. So yeah, initially it was almost like an anger piece, but now it's it's a little bit more balanced.
Yes.
And weirdly enough, the moment that I started reaching out to people, loads of people wanted to share their story, because weirdly enough, there were so many people, but they were just being quiet about it because of that shame and that stigma. The way that we were talking about mental health, we weren't doing when it came to addiction and alcoholism and stuff. And so the podcast was, I did 2 seasons, and then I've done a 3rd season where we've talked to just everybody. It wasn't just people from hospitality, and it's been really cool to talk to sober people from all sorts of walks of life. But I always wanted to do merchandise, not sure why, but the idea of, I have no idea where the idea of making socks and sober cunt socks came from. Probably just one of those moments. And in my ADHD way, I just went with it and didn't really think about the consequences. My sister says that she thinks that I'm really brave because I always just go and do these things. And I'm like, I think there's a very fine line between bravery and recklessness. And bravery and stupidity, and I teeter on that. So I was just like, I'm going to just spend, I think, a couple of £100, and I was like, look, if I lose this couple of £100, it's not like life-changing money. And I ordered these socks, and I worked with a designer, and I got them all kind of made, and they sold out immediately. And I was like, oh, okay, interesting. So there are more of me. And that's kind of built, I launched a website in October, so very early days, where the idea will be eventually to have collections from not just myself, but from other people, where you can go onto We Recover Loudly and gift yourself things that really celebrate who you are in your sobriety or your recovery or your neurodivergence. Also gift other people their greeting cards, and I'm doing lots of different collaborations with people as well. So the idea hopefully will be is that it becomes a space where you can feel community within, you can gift yourself presents, you can gift other people, because if you've ever been sober, you'll know you deserve a fucking present regularly. And therefore it's a great place. I'm recording podcasts again, not underneath We Recover Loudly, but I've got a podcast coming out called Too Sober for This, which is me and my friend Ian, who's a comedian, just talking about how we both got sober and our lives got worse, and navigating big life things. So we're talking about topics like true love, money, identity. We're going to do an episode about suicide because we think it's we've both got experience of it, really important. So that's going to be kind of released underneath the We Recover Loudly umbrella. But yeah, what I'm hoping to continue to just really build is that brand that says to people, just because you're sober, it doesn't mean you have to change who you are. If anything, it allows you to be even more of a dick and even more rebellious and just, you know, just to really scream that riot, you know, that riot call that recovery is. It's rebellion and it's amazing. And, you know, do it and find your tribe.
Yeah. I love it. As someone, I create this podcast to get rid of shame. I wanted more people to be out there. As I'm in recovery, I know what it is like to live with addiction because I think it's a thing that not enough people talk about, which therefore keeps that shame cycle going. So to have someone else in front of me to be like, no, I really passionately don't want people to be on their own in shame with this is just brilliant. And I think it's fantastic.
Kills. And we know that shame kills, and it's, you know, it's as simple and it's as hard to hear as that. It's kept me from getting help. It probably kept me in pain for a good 5 years longer than I needed to. It kept my family in pain. It closed off opportunities, you know, all of this stuff because I couldn't ask for help because I just didn't understand why I wasn't able to do what others did. And it turns out because I really am not the same as other people, and that's okay. And that's weirdly, the moment I accepted that and realized a lot of this shit wasn't my fault, it's my responsibility, but it's not my fault. Like the lightness that gets lifted. You know, the flip of that is once you know you've got all these things, if you carry on being a dick, and like, you know, if I carry on using my ADHD and my autism as an excuse to hurt myself, hurt others, and to not show up in a way that is kind of like bounded and, you know, like authentic and that, then, you know, the flip of that, I feel like sometimes, you know, that knowledge does come with responsibility.
Yes, it does.
You know,
it does.
That means you kind of don't get that get out free kind of time. But again, you know, look, sobriety is often viewed as the boring option, and I can remember in early days someone saying, oh, I went outside and I looked at a leaf and I was like, fucking hell, this leaf is amazing. And I'm like, if I'm just getting sober to look at leaves, like, I'm out.
That is not for me.
This is not for me. But you will eventually, and you'll get a moment where you'll just suddenly realize that you've achieved peace, and you won't know when it's going to come, and it's the most beautiful thing. It's the most beautiful thing. And then before you know it, you know, your life will just unfold in a way that you never dreamed. And it's because you never dreamed you deserved it. And I think that's really beautiful as well, when you realize you deserve good things and you deserve to be happy, and, you know, you deserve it. I feel like that's L'Oreal. You're worth it. You're worth it.
You deserve it, L'Oreal.
You deserve it. Right, that's going on a t-shirt. You deserve it. Recovery. You deserve it. Oh my God.
They are done. Actually, I want 10% of that.
Definitely.
Thank you so much for your time today. It's been an absolute pleasure, and hopefully lots of people check you out after listening to this. I have absolutely loved doing this with you, and honestly, I can't thank you enough.
Oh, and thank you so much. It's such a gift to be able to, like you say, just share a story and connect with new people and expand my community. And I really appreciate it. And let me know. Yeah, I'm excited to hear the episode. And anyone wants to get in touch, just literally, I'm always on my, I'm not always on my Instagram.
Not always.
Not between 9 and 3, but after 3, I'm like a feral rabbit. So please do get in touch and check out my podcast. And I'm really excited to see what happens next for you guys too.
Fab. Thank you so much. Honestly, absolute pleasure. And if you ever need anything from us, you know where we are.
Oh, thank you so much.
Brilliant. Thank you, Shell. Take care. Bye-bye.